Brad Jones. I'm a orthopedic spine surgeon. How I do things now is quite different. Before with manual prep, you're probably only realistically, at least how I was doing it, was removing probably 15 to 20% of the actual disc, and I can tell you my end plate preparation was probably fairly poor. And since using the Inspire, it sort of brought it, I think, to another level in terms of the amount of graft material you're able to introduce into the disc space. We have measured probably anywhere between 5 to 15 cc's of actual local bone graft, milled bone graft that we're able to introduce into the disc space in and around the actual graft that I use. With disc preparation, pseudoarthrosis is the key thing. With pseudoarthrosis, the other thing that we saw quite often was end plate violation, and I think that's one of the key things when you're using a typical shaver or curette or bone rasp. You're going to potentially end up violating the end plate and lead to subsidence of the actual graft. I think that's one of the key things. Concavity of the actual disc space can be a challenge with a manual instrument, in the sense that you're dealing with a straight instrument that's not going to be able to perhaps conform to the actual concavity of the end plate, and you're probably leaving a layer of cartilage on the actual end plate that is obviously not going to be conducive to a fusion. And with the current SpineView product, you're actually able to get into the concavity and actually prepare the disc space with the wire that basically cleans the disc space and removes the cartilaginous end plate to get down to good bone prep. One of the key things I think is there's less retraction on the nerve roots, both the traversing and exiting nerve root. Those are always an issue when you're doing a manual prep. You're constantly going from shaver and moving up shaver size, your pituitary rongeur. So there's multiple passes that end up occurring, and I think the more you enter a disc space, the more frequent that you do so, the more likely that you potentially can have a traction injury or ding the nerve in terms of your multiple passes. Now I don't even retract the dura or exiting nerve root one bit. There's zero retraction. Obviously, from the hospital standpoint, there's potential for cost savings that if you're doing, let's say, a 5 levels worth of T-lift in the course of a surgery day, you're potentially saving 50 minutes potentially on that OR time. And so from a hospital standpoint, they're going to be saving money. I think that's one of the things that's often overlooked is, the most expensive time in medicine from a utilization standpoint, from a hospital setting, is the OR. What's important is if you can demonstrate that you're saving 10 to 15 minutes per case per level, that's a dramatic cost savings to the hospital and the facility. And we're probably using, for a typical one-level case, probably half of a small package of BMP, whereas before I was probably using a full package of BMP for a single level. So our BMP usage has gone down dramatically with this, and I've seen less problems with heterotopic, bone problems into the canal out of the T-lift space.